earlier this year. I feel like it was back in February that I asked you guys for questions, so I'm really sorry about the delay, but again, I'm really appreciative for all the questions that you guys asked me, and I really wanted to make an effort to answer every single one of you. So I really apologize. I know this is going to be split into two parts again as well, but yeah, I do hope that you enjoy this, and let's jump right into it. Okay, so like last time, I am going to be looking down just as I've got all your questions down here, and so just starting from the first one, Miriam asks me if the silk stuff from Evelyn is see-through. So yes and no, it really depends on what color you're going for. I find that the darker colors tend to be much more opaque. I have bought the blush shade before, which I would not recommend. It's very unflattering. And I've also bought something in the white silk as well, and they're both very sheer. However, everything else has been very opaque. So I've got the Dove Grey silk cami, the black, the navy. I've also got a camel silk cami as well. Camel silk tank as well, and they are all very opaque, so you can't see your bra or anything like that underneath. So just be really careful with what you're choosing, and you can always just take a look at the product images and hopefully they should give you a pretty good idea. Valerie asks me, what were my wardrobe and shopping habits like prior to my capsule? I have to say, I was a consumer. I just bought all the freaking time. I would buy something every single week, if not multiple times a week. In my office, we had messengers who would come every few hours, and they used to laugh at me because I would buy that much that I'd be receiving a package almost every single day. It was a real problem, and it was part of the reason why I actually wanted to start a capsule wardrobe, because I thought it might help me to cut back on my shopping. In terms of my style, I definitely wore a lot more color. I had a much more disjointed wardrobe. Nothing really went together. I just bought whatever it was that I liked and I'd wear it, and I probably wore it once or twice before I got sick of it. So yeah, that was kind of what my style was like before I started capsule wardrobes. The Latonia999 says, would love to know your thoughts on minimal capsule wardrobes for people who enjoy color and dressing more creatively. All of the capsule minimal wardrobes that I've seen consists of mainly black, white, and gray, which is not for me. So I think that you can definitely incorporate a lot of color and playful styles in your capsule wardrobes, and it's really something that I'm trying to show in my capsules, because personally, as much as I love wearing black, white, gray, and navy, I also enjoy wearing a bit of color, and I think that it really helps to lift up your spirits and your energy and make you feel a little bit happier sometimes. I don't know, I just feel like you can get such a boost from wearing something with a fun print or with a fun color. So I think what you really need to do is create a color palette that works with the colors that you've got in your wardrobe. So think about what your core colors are, what ones that you wear every single day, and then think about what might complement it. So I mean, you could even have a black or a white complementing your main color palette, which could have, you know, blue and green and pink in it or something like that. So just really think about it that way. Be a little bit more creative about the way that you approach it, because it's not going to be as black and white, to put it very literally, as doing a very minimally colored wardrobe. I hope that does help, and I am going to try and build on how to incorporate color into a capsule wardrobe at some stage, probably a little bit later in the year. So do keep an eye out for that if it's something that you will be interested in. Rachel asks, my question is in regards to the 5-piece French wardrobe. What happens to the 5 pieces once the season or year is over? The purpose of the 5-piece French wardrobe challenge is, or 5-piece French wardrobe, is to really complement what you've got in your closet. So there's a book that I read, and I'm gonna link it down below because I can't remember. I think it's Lessons from Madame Chic, and she talks about when she went to Paris and how she was living there, and she noticed that all of the French women would wear the same clothing over and over again. However, what they would do is they would incorporate more special pieces, and that's really where the concept comes from. So because you're wearing your clothing so much more frequently, they are going to wear out a little bit more often, and you're also kind of pulling from a smaller pool of clothing. So the new pieces that you're buying are not only to replace things that are worn out, but to also complement what you have. At the end of the season, you do not throw anything away. I didn't really have the best luck with what I bought last year, so I did part with a couple of things, but the purpose is not to get rid of things at the end of it. You keep it in your closet, and just say the next year you don't actually need to buy that much stuff. You don't buy 5 things. Maybe you buy 1 thing, maybe you buy 2, maybe you buy nothing. But the purpose is to really just use it as a guide to help you to streamline your closet. It really should be intuitive. You shouldn't really need the rules, but I find that because we're so hardwired to consume, it really does help to kind of have those rules in place just to really encourage those types of behaviors. So I hope that helps to answer your question. And yeah, I definitely don't just throw things away at the end of the season. I'm gonna butcher some of these usernames, so please forgive me, but Puppy Lion asks, how does your style evolve and change over the years, and who inspires you? I'd say that it's just become a lot more streamlined. I definitely always kind of really enjoyed wearing more classic pieces, and I did tend to wear a lot of blazers and silk blouses with high-waisted skirts when I was younger, in my early 20s, but now I tend to wear less of the high-heel platform shoes. I think I've maybe got one pair of platforms. Do I have any? I don't think I've got any anymore. I parted with all of those sorts of things. I wear a lot less patterns because that was a really huge part of my wardrobe. I owned a lot of things from Karen Walker, and if you follow her collection, she tends to do a lot of key prints every single season, and I think I probably just go for simpler silhouettes now than I used to. So that's kind of really been where my style evolution has kind of gone towards. If you want to see an entire video on my style evolution, let me know. I'll try and pull something together that's interesting with photos and that kind of thing. In terms of who inspires me, I think style-wise, I really love Olivia Palermo's style. I think she matches prints with color and also really interesting silhouettes. And I also really like Alexa Chung. She tends to pull off everything, and it's kind of disheveled, but it also looks really cool. And in terms of more kind of classic styles, I'd probably say Audrey Hepburn. She was just so elegant, and it's definitely something that I would aspire to. Oh God, I really can't pronounce this one. I think it's Chaeyeon. Really sorry. Says, I am such a shopaholic. How do you resist from the impulse of buying clothing? I think that this is a habit that you actually have to teach yourself, because I could not resist shopping either, and sometimes I scroll through my phone mindlessly just looking at stuff on the internet, even though I know that I shouldn't. I know I can't afford to, and I also think, well, what are my actual goals? Like, what do I want to save towards? What do I want to do with my life? Because clothing is not everything. As much as I love it, you've got to admit that to yourself. So one of the things that I did was I stopped going to the shops. I unsubscribed from most newsletters, and I really just tried to limit the times that I would go onto these online stores. So I tried to remove it from my daily routine. I deleted all the apps from my phone, just really trying to remove yourself from any situation where you can shop. I find that's probably one of the better ways to do it. Laura asks, since you wear clothing so often, I'd love to see how you care for them. So I guess the question here is, do you guys want to see a video on how I care for my clothing? I have to admit I'm a little bit lazy, and most of my stuff either goes in the washing machine or it goes to the dry cleaner, because I figure that it's either one or the other. I do tend to try and buy a lot more clothing that can be hand washed or washed in the washing machine, just because it is a lot less effort than things that have to be dry cleaned, because there's also the cost if you have to take it to the dry cleaner. But if you do want an in-depth kind of video on how you should be caring for your clothing and how you should be caring for your leather items as well, then let me know, as I'd be happy to pull something together. Then Dreamer asks, when did you begin building your wardrobe, investing in quality pieces and so on? Did you do that while being a student on a budget, or did you start when you began working and earning money? So I've actually been working since I was 14. I got my first job working in a supermarket, and from that age I had my own income, which I would use to spend on whatever I liked, and most of the time it was clothing. So I never really had to worry too much about money in that respect, because I was always working really hard. And when I was at university, I was working 40 to 60 hours a week managing a bar, so I had quite a steady stream of income. And because I was living at home, it meant that I had that money to do essentially whatever I wanted to do with it. So it allowed me to really invest in key high quality pieces. I probably started to focus more on investing in basic pieces when I was about 21 years old, I'd say. So just after I finished university, and it was more around the age of 23 that I really started to drop some serious cash on those key pieces. I think that was when I bought my first equipment silk blouse. It's when I bought my Helmut Lang blazer. That was probably around the time I also bought boots and heels from Isabel Marant, all of that sort of thing. That was when I really started to spend money on those sorts of pieces. And it was when I had gone over to America, and you just kind of have access to so many more options. So that's probably around about the time that I did it. I think if you're a student on a budget, you're probably just best to wait until you start working and you do have that income to spend on clothing. There's no point buying things when you can't afford it. Don't put yourself under financial duress if you can't afford to buy something. Or at least that's what I think anyway. Ria says, how do you decide on your purchases? Is there a process for you either online or in store? What pieces are worth investing in for higher end brands? So in terms of deciding on my purchases, I just browse like any other normal person would, and I kind of look for things that really fit in with my personal style. And sometimes I look for things that are a little bit different but complement what I already have. In terms of sizing and that kind of thing, because you've really got to think also about how it fits to your body and how it's going to look on your figure. So if I can, I find it so much better to try things on in store, because then you can try different sizes. Maybe you're usually a size small, but the medium fits better, or the extra small fits better. It's just kind of nicer to have that in-store experience where you can. Then in terms of what pieces are worth investing in, I think it's really important to invest in a nice black blazer, particularly if you work in an office, a nice handbag which is appropriate to wear to the office. Your things like black heels that you'll be wearing on a daily basis, I think it's probably better to just buy a cheap pair that you can replace, because trust me when I say they're going to get absolutely thrashed. I'm going to stop this Q&A here. Stay tuned for part 2 where you can hear all the